What's the deal? It's your boy Gizzle Man, your girlfriend's favorite YouTuber. I'm back real brief, with boxing with Gizzle. We gonna talk about it. I just want to start off by saying to all the doubters who doubted that PBC would be able to put on a show just because they were switching networks. Oh, y'all must be crazy. See. This is the thing. The network wouldn't matter. The network is just where Premier Boxing Champions. It's where Al decides to call home. Showtime didn't want to put on boxing fights anymore for whatever reasons, and I knew PBC taking their talents over to Amazon would be it's probably going to be bigger than it was on Showtime, and let's get to it though. It's safe to say that we just seen the best boxing of this year, right? It's safe to say that, right? All right. I'm gonna start off with the co-main event, which before I go into the co-main event, I just want to say shout out to Laura. He did his thing. Another fighter, another PBC fighter who always shows up and shows out. Kept his title. Gotta stop it. You know what I mean? Shout out to Laura. But yeah, man. Rolando Romero, Rolly versus Isaac Pitbull Cruz. I'm not surprised with the outcome of the fight. I predicted that if Pitbull put the pressure on Rolly and Rolly didn't know how to deal with the pressure, that he would stop Rolly. He would stop Rolly. Rolly jab is not good enough to control the distance. With a fighter like Pitbull, you got to put your jab out there and control the distance, especially with Rolly having the height and the range. So the jab was supposed to stay out there, and you're supposed to establish your jab to make Pitbull respect it. He didn't respect his jab at all. Rolly barely ever tried to establish the jab. Instead of him using the jab, he would put it out there as a sign of attempting to control the distance. But of course, when you fighting a professional, Pitbull understood that Rolly had no jab. There was no jab there to make you be like, I'm not just gonna go up in there. And he constantly kept coming up in there, and Rolly didn't have an answer for it. Because Pitbull was cutting the ring off, he didn't give Rolly enough room to even expand his power. That power that Rolly possesses, he didn't have enough room to get it off. See, when you're rangy like Rolly, you need a little space to get that power off. Pitbull, he cut the ring off. He cut all that off. He closed Rolly in. So he limited Rolly to how much of that power he can use. And Pacquiao style, punches and bunches. I'm surprised Rolly didn't need a oxygen tank. You know what I mean? Because the way Pitbull was on him, I know he couldn't breathe. He got a point taken away from holding Pitbull. So tonight we got to see another one-sided ass whooping. That makes Pitbull Cruz a champion at 140, and he's saying he'll fight anybody now. Would he have the same success fighting a Devin Haney, a Teofimo, or even a Ryan Garcia? Would he have the same success fighting him? No, because these are guys who actually have an established jab, and they're dangerous. Credit to Rolly for even making it this far in boxing, seeing as he's somebody who started boxing late and have a very small amateur background. To even be a two-time world champion, it still speaks volumes. But you got some people who just was born to do this. and Pitbull is one of them. Even if he would have lost tonight, we would have seen him back again in another fight, probably whooping some ass. With Rolly, I don't know where he goes from here. I mean, he can take some. He can take some. I mean, he is signed with Mayweather, so he probably can get some undercard fights, or maybe even he can pull an Adrian Broner and talk shit into some main events. At the end of the day, it's about who can put asses in seats. So Rolly will still have a career. I just don't know how much of competing he'll be able to do in championship level fights. Um, but that's that. Mm, the main event, man, as Triple G would say, big drama show. Quentin Tarantino, big drama show. Quentin Tarantino, blood everywhere. So in the third round, I believe Tim Tszyu ran into a elbow that put a slit in the top of his head, close to his hairline, that bled the whole fight, and I mean bled bad. And Fundora caught a jab that caused him to be bleeding from the nose and mouth. Now Fundora's corner was able to put more of a stop to his bleeding throughout the fight than Tim Tszyu's corner did. Tim Tszyu bleeding affected his vision. But, some people breathe, wake up, go to sleep, and live boxing. And Tim Tszyu fought through that and still put on a clinic. Like both of these dudes came to fight. Fundora got the decision which he deserved because he relied on his jab. And I don't care what nobody tells you. If you're boxing, if you got kids that want to box, you're a father of kids who's fighting, is protect yourself at all times. And number one, learn the jab before you learn anything. Because without a established jab, you do not control the fight. The jab is what controls the distance. You understand me? The jab is what controls the distance. And by Fundora being the way taller fighter and having the height in the arm length, the range, him having an established jab from first round to 12th round is what won him this fight. Because even though Tim Tszyu was able to get in there and get off some tremendous hooks, some tremendous body shots, it's just hard for a judge to call a fight for you when this guy is, he's getting off at least 10 to 15 jabs around on you. So it's hard to get around that. And, the casuals might look at fights like that and say, oh, Tim Tszyu landed the big shots. You got to understand a lot of these judges come from the amateurs in the Olympics. So even if the casuals don't understand the jab and what it does to what the decision will be of a fight, these fighters understand that. So when Tim Tszyu is in there giving it all he got, he understands that all these jabs he's catching to the face is going to be effective to the way that the judges is going to call this fight. And that's why at the end of the fight, he didn't be like, oh, it could have at least been a draw or I think I won. He was being realistic. He knew he lost. Now, what I will say is it was such a entertaining battle. And I think we, as fans of boxing, we came up a little short because of the bleeding of the head of Tim Tszyu and the bleeding of the nose and the mouth of Fundora. I think this fight is worth a rematch. I think Tim Tszyu deserves a rematch. I'd like to see it again. As a fan of the sport, I'd like to see it again. It was that good. But at the end of the fight, somebody special walks in the ring. The big fish, Earl Smith Jr., who's now campaigning at super welterweight at 154, and by him being a 3 belt holder at 147, moving up to 154 after the loss to undisputed welterweight champion Terrence Crawford, I think he deserves a crack at it. But does he deserve a crack at it right away after we just seen that performance that Tim Tszyu and Fundora put together? No, I don't. I think Tim Tszyu deserves his rematch, and they should rematch it. And if Tim Tszyu wins, I'd like to see a trilogy with him and Fundora. If Fundora can beat Tim Tszyu in a rematch, so that we just know that this wasn't a fluke, then I'd like to see Fundora and Earl Spence, because I do want to see what Spence looked like at 154. For later talks, you got to see where I'm going with this. See, if you ain't a boxing fan, you don't know where I'm going with this. See, let's say Earl Spence can fight either Tim Tszyu or Fundora. We'll say Fundora because he's unified at 54 right now as of tonight. And let's just say Earl Spence can get them straps. That'll bring Crawford to 154, and we get to see that rematch at 154 where they're both, just a bit more healthier making weight at, especially Earl being, the bigger guy. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see that Crawford and Spence rematch at 154, but I think some belts should be on the line. And if Crawford beats him, I think Earl should retire. And if Spence beats him or whatever the outcome, I just think all this make good for boxing. When I say good for boxing, I'm not talking about good for the boxing of you casuals. I'm talking about good for boxing of us that understand the sport, that understands that weight makes a difference in fights, that understand the jab, understanding the dynamics of how this fight thing works out. So that's it for me tonight. Like, subscribe, comment, give me your opinion. You could disagree with my opinion. I don't give a damn. But that's your boxing for tonight. And like I say, PBC on Amazon, they back.